Hello folks, welcome back to another Monday night live stream. How is everybody? How was your weekend? Hope you've been having a fun time. Oh, my phone there just started playing back while I was double checking everything was working. I hope everybody's well. Hope you've had a good time over the weekend. I hope the weather's been kind to you. We've had some really nice weather up here in the northeast, but I did hear it's not been as nice everywhere. So hopefully it was quite kind to you. Let's have a look in the chat, because we had quite a few people waiting tonight when I just checked there. I think we had about 15 people waiting to get into the chat. So let's say hello to a few familiar faces or a few familiar names. Steve Evans, first one in tonight. Good evening, Steve. How are you doing? And I saw further down the chat you're looking forward to a bit of chat about Kings of War 3rd edition, which was just announced today. And that kind of influenced the title, I think, for the topic for chat tonight. And we will be chatting about all sorts of other games as well. But it's nice to have a bit of a topic to shape the chat and see where it goes from there. So good evening to you, Steve. We've got Paul in as well. Good evening, mate. He says, I'm here too. Furious George is in as well. Says, morning all. Morning, George. Who else? Christian Reeves is coming as well. Good evening, Christian. Christian has been knocking it out of the park lately. So not only did he very kindly send me some homemade trees, which look amazing, mate. Thank you very much. He's also been making his very own board for Super Fantasy Brawl. That's not even out yet. And he's made the most amazing board for it. So if you haven't seen that, check out. I'm sure it'll probably be on the Super Fantasy Brawl Facebook page. It's certainly on my BlackJack Legacy community, Facebook page. So go and check that out. It is awesome. Well done, mate. Nice bit of work there. Mark's in as well. He said, evening all, I'm here. Don't let that imposter over on the Mythic stream. That's evil, Mark. Mythic have been knocking it out the park as well. Speaking of smashing it, Mythic have really done a great job with all of the live streaming and stuff these last 7 days since last Tuesday. Well, it was Tuesday, wasn't it, when the Kickstarter went live for Super Fantasy Brawl. So yeah, Az must be absolutely burned out by now, live streaming every single night. Joel Wrigley is in as well. He says hello to everyone, no matter what time it is in your respective locations. We do get a lot of different time zones in here on a Monday night, don't we? I like that. I like the fact we've got a bit of a international flavour. So yes, good evening to you, mate. We've got Alex in as well. Says evening all. Good evening, Alex. Thank you for joining the chat tonight. Hendricks in as well. He says, have no fear. The second worst Kings of War player from the Netherlands is here. Nice to see you, Hendrik. Hope you're well. Claudio's in as well. Says, how are you all? Evening, Claudio. We've got Glyn in as well. The legend that is Glyn Seymour. Good evening, buddy. Hope you're well. Glyn was asking about the potential of having a bit of Kings of War 3rd edition demos at Weekender 2. Let's just say it would be a miss not to have the Mantic guys there, or to have the Mantic guys there and then not do demos, wouldn't it? So yes, I'm sure we'll manage that as well. Just while I mentioned the Weekender 2 as well, tickets are still available for it. If anybody is interested, let me know in the chat if it's something you've not really heard about. And then we can get you a link and send you to the right place to tell you all about Weekender 2, which is October 11th to 13th in Stockport at Element Games in the UK. VJ's in as well. Says, morning, folks. Good morning, VJ. How are you? I think we've got, is it Velua? I hope I've pronounced that name correctly there. Apologies if not. Good evening or good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining the stream. Nice to see some new names in as well. We've got Bob in as well. Says hello, not been a while. Hope everyone's good. Nice to see you too, Bob. VJ's popping the kettle on. We've got Michael in. He says hello, all you boys and girls. Couldn't miss this one. Thought this one might be up your street, Michael. Your kind of games. We got Michael Baker in as well. Says, hey, how it's going? Good evening, Michael. Nice of you to join us as well. Another new name, I think, for tonight. So thank you very much for coming in. We've got Jay in as well from Top Table Gaming. Hello, fella. How are you doing? I hope you're well. VJ said, so he caved and he's backed Super Fantasy Brawl on Kickstarter. You won't be sorry, mate. Honestly, I played it again over the weekend. I played it last week. I've been looking to see how the Tabletopia online version works as well. So maybe I think it might have been Christian suggested it, or certainly somebody did. Mark might have been Mark suggested it. We get a bit of a BlackJack Legacy kind of online league thing going. So yeah, I'm sure we can make that happen. I'm sure we can. Different Gear is in as well. Good evening, buddy. How are you doing? He says, hello, mate. Hope you're surviving the heat wave. It's a killer here in Spain. It's been a bit up and down here, mate. It's been really, really nice up here in the northeast. It was a bit breezy yesterday, a little bit windy, but still very hot. I set off for work this morning really early, and the sun was cracking the pavements kind of 5:30, 6 o'clock. And I drove kind of about 170 mile to Manchester. I went through rain and wind and grey clouds and everything. And I come back home again to Newcastle tonight, and the sun's absolutely blazing again here through the windows. So yeah, for such a small little country, we've got all manner of different weather, sorry. Craig Lowther is in. Good evening, Craig. How are you, mate? Christian is in. You're welcome. Really do appreciate that, mate. Sean's in as well. This is evening all. Good evening, buddy. Nice to see you with the silver ace there as well. Very nice to see that. Aggression is in as well. Good evening, buddy. He said he backed Fantasy Brawl, probably more interested to paint it than play it. To be honest, mate, it's an absolute bargain just for the miniatures. The miniatures are awesome. They would look great in kind of games of D&D or something a bit more chunky just to have on your shelf as display miniatures. They are all one piece. Be great for kind of younger ones to paint as well, I think, because it's for all the really highly detailed, that just bigger scale. So for the price, I think it's worth, even if you only play the game once. The game is fantastic, and I suggest you play it more than once. But for the miniatures, you're under a bargain, I think. Christian is saying hello to Jay, hello to Sean. Michael's saying the worst ones here too. Green Stuff Games is in. Good evening, Josie. How are you doing? I saw you've been back around now. Haven't spoken to you in a little while. I hope you're well. Al Crabby's in as well. Good evening, mate. John Estelin. Nice to see you, mate. He says evening from the time zone. That's the original Washington. Yes, you're not too far from me, buddy, just along the road. And John is pretty much the driving force behind our Northeast Mantic gamers now as well. So I set the group up, but he's pretty much just running it now. So that's it's fantastic to see that's up and running, and we're starting to get a nice little gathering of Mantic gamers getting together in the Northeast. It looks like Valua looks like I got that name right. He says evening and greetings from Poland. Well, good evening. I wish I had a kind of a Polish phrase, to say something nice to you, but I don't speak any Polish. Apologies. Michael saying first thing that sprang to mind was when I was reading the Ronnie post. They renamed Mantica. Well, I don't know whether you read further down the post, but they haven't renamed Mantica. Now, I need to check on my phone to get the exact name again because I will forget what it's called. But it's called Panathor. And the reason that the name has changed is because Mantica is the continent that so far Kings of War has been kind of fought over or played over, if you like. Mantica is that kind of that continent. But Panathor is the name of the world that Mantica is in. And one of the things that is happening in Kings of War 3rd edition is they are really expanding the lore and they're expanding the map so that you see a lot more of the entire world. And I'm sure over time, I don't know if it's in these books, but I'm sure over time, if there's more world to explore, there'll be more factions to explore. So there's a lot more to come from Kings of War 3rd edition. I'm quite fortunate that I knew Kings of War 3rd edition was coming in, and I've kind of been sentenced to silence. I couldn't say anything about it. However, that doesn't mean I haven't been doing some prep in the background. So we'll come on to that in a little bit as well. Let's have a look. Christian is saying, should I post the board on Superfan? Absolutely, mate. Don't worry. You're saying you don't want to spam multiple groups, mate, but just get it out there. It's fantastic. I've not seen another one yet. I'm sure people want to see it, mate. I will just get it out there. VJ says, online Super Fantasy Brawl with the BlackJackers sounds awesome. Yes, there is. It's called Tabletopia, and it's a free website. If you have a PC, you can download it through the Steam App Store as well, through the Steam Store. And the actual Super Fantasy Brawl add-on for it is free as well, and it's free to play. So that's something that Mythic have done just to try and get people playing while they're waiting for the Kickstarter to arrive. We've got Tony in as well. Says, hey up. Hello, fella. How you doing? Mark's just agreeing with what I said there. Glyn saying you can never have enough games for the weekender. Absolutely, mate. A bit of chat through there. Yeah, Christian saying it's better through Steam as well. I thought it ran a little bit slow through the web browser. Matt Mountain is in as well. It says, woohoo, Matt is back in the house. BlackJack is hashtag Mantic Monday. It really is a hashtag Mantic Monday today. I almost put hashtag Mantic Monday across the thumbnail on this one, but I thought I couldn't fit it all in the size I wanted. Different Gear TV saying, have you heard of Tabletop Simulator for the PC? Just heard of it today. Yes, I've played on it quite a few times. So you'll see some of my older videos when I was playing a bit of Star Wars Destiny. I used to play a tabletop simulator, Star Wars Destiny card and dice game with my son. So it meant that we didn't have to buy loads of different decks. You can just have all of the different decks online. It meant we got used to it. We could build decks to try things out before we went and tried to kind of pick up cards and stuff. And it works really, really well. If you check out the Tabletop Oddity channel, Jay, who runs that, was doing a bit of stuff while he was waiting for Legion to come out. There is a Star Wars Legion app for it as well that works really well. And there's a Star Wars X-Wing app as well, amongst millions of other games as well. But I think you have to pay for Tabletop Simulator. It's not very much, I don't think, maybe about sort of £9 or something like that. But then I think all of the games are actually free on it as well. So yeah, it's a nice way to play some games if you want to play online with friends. It can be a little bit clunky at times. It takes a little bit getting used to, like how you flip cards and how you move things around and how you roll dice. But once you get that down, it's pretty cool. Green Stuff Games is saying, yeah, not bad, painting up some Walking Dead stuff. It is exciting times for Walking Dead. While I talk about Walking Dead as well, so tonight's stream was going to be, I was going to have Walking Dead Call to Arms as the kind of main topic for tonight. But then obviously when Mantic announced Kings of War 3rd Edition as well, I thought, well, let's talk about Mantic. Sean made a bit of a comment today about like kind of a joking comment on Mantic releasing too much stuff too fast kind of thing, based upon what I've been talking about in the past about Games Workshop. But they're not releasing stuff too fast, but they are absolutely smashing it. There's something new coming all of the time. And their games are different enough that not necessarily every player plays every game. So you've got Walking Dead, you've got Dead Zone, you've got Dreadball, you've got Warpath, you've got Kings of War, you've got Kings of War Vanguard, we've got Hellboy, we've got other new stuff coming up in the future. Have I missed anything out there? Did I say Dead Zone? I can't remember. There's plenty of different games, but there's stuff coming out all the time. If you think about Hellboy, from the release of Hellboy, we had is it called Escalation? Dead Zone Escalation, I think it is, which was the updated rules and stats and stuff for that. Really kind of quite closely behind that, we've had the announcement for Call to Arms Walking Dead. They went up for pre-order on Friday. This week we've had the announcement of Kings of War 3rd Edition. Coming up in the summer, there's a Kings of War Vanguard kind of summer campaign expansion coming. We've also then got the unnamed game that keeps getting teased. That'll be coming up at some point in the future as well. There's just so much coming, but they're kind of up in their release schedule now. And a lot less of this is Kickstarter based as well, which I think shows the size of the community that's growing now around Mantic, that there's enough people buy this stuff that they don't always have to go to Kickstarter for every single thing. Sometimes they do for things where there's a lot of expensive kind of molds to be made for new miniatures and stuff. But it shows now that there is a real community building around Mantic, and they're absolutely starting to smash it out the park now. So I thought that's what we talk about tonight. The reason I was going to talk about Call to Arms is because I already have, and you might not be able to see them there, I've already got the rules for Call to Arms, and I've had this for quite a little while now. Now, normally I would kind of flash the PDF up on the screen and show you bits and pieces, but the version I've got was the pre-printed version. So the bit before all of the fancy pictures and sort of any of the tables went in, and there's still little bits in here that says plus more, add something here, or XXX. So I don't want to show you this one in case anything has changed a little bit. But if you do have any questions about Call to Arms, ask away and I will answer what I can, because I've obviously got a bit more information than I guess some of you folks will. Let's have a look, see where else we had. Craig Lowther there is saying, love how Mythic responded to the community and giving us the statues as well as more cards. The extra cards and the extra base rings was a really, really good shout, because it means now that if you get the pledge with the neoprene mat in, you've now got enough stuff to have 2 games playing at exactly the same time. You've got enough miniatures, because you've got 15 miniatures in that original pledge. There's 15 miniatures in that. You only need 12 for 2 games to be going on. And then you've got 2 mats, you've got 2 lots of tokens, you've got 2 lots of base rings, all that kind of stuff. It really is actually a good shout that they've done that. It'll help grow the community, I think. So if one person buys it, you can get 4 people playing. Or if you want to play 4 versus 4, like 2 versus 2 on a 4-player game, I think you'll still have enough miniatures, won't you? 4, 8, 12. You might do. Let's have a look. Mark saying Tabletop Simulator is on sale. It's about 75% off. Good shout to have a look at that now then. VJ saying, I hope that Mythic are better at customer support than Colossal. I got Terrors of London set, but was missing a component. Took them over a week just to respond. What, in my kind of limited experience of Mythic, as really they're only just shipping their first game now, their customer support has been fantastic. They've done, I think, 2 or 3 Kickstarters now, and the first one's just beginning to kind of arrive on people's doors now. And every single week without fail, there's an update about what's happening with the Kickstarter, where they're up to, showing a bit more information, explaining what's changing, explaining if there's any delays, all the different background. They really have kind of interacted with that community. And there's, with every game that ever ships, there's always some like kind of miscasts, or there's something missing from a box, or something happens. And they've been pretty quick from what I can see to kind of respond to that stuff. So yeah, I don't think you're going to have any problems there, matey. Mark saying he's just checked, it's 50% off, it's £7.49. That's not too bad for Tabletop Simulator, is it? I think I probably paid about 8 or 9 quid for it a little while ago now. Bazza's in as well, says, evening peeps, how's everyone? Good evening, Bazza, how are you doing? Michael says he's looking forward to the new Walking Dead game, gameplay, going to work on trying to record a battle report I set up. Kudos to you, Andy. I can't figure out how you do your quality, buddy. It's just lots of practice, mate, and lots of failing many times and then realising what works. That's how I do it, mate. Paul saying, you're right about not everyone playing all of Mantic's games. I think a lot of people either play the fantasy genre or the sci-fi. There's only a small amount of overlap. GW is kind of the same. Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why GW can kind of release so much so fast as well. But yeah, I think it's testament to kind of Ronnie and the guys at Mantic, really, just that how far they've come. And I think people have this idea that Mantic are a huge company and that they shouldn't be going to Kickstarter all the time. And when you actually kind of, if you ever visit the place, and a lot of people in the chat will have been there, once you kind of see just how many people you work there, it's not as big as you'd expect. They kind of punch above their weight, I would say, with the quality of the games, the quality of their components, the amount of stuff they put out there, the way they interact with the community. You'd expect that there would be kind of twice as many people working there at least. If you think that GW, I think, employ around 900 people now, and I think Mantic are probably in the region of maybe about 20, maximum 20 maybe, including kind of warehouse staff and things like that. It's quite interesting, really, just the difference in scale. Where we at? Glenn is saying, speaking of discounts, Protoss Games is having a second run of stock removal. Aliens versus Predators even cheaper now. Is it really? I was just talking about that last week. Michael says he got the playtest version and tried it. It looks good. Yeah, the playtest version probably isn't a million miles away from where the finished one ended up. The copy that I've got here has all of the rules. It's got all of the let's have a look. All the scenarios are in there as well. All of the keywords and bits and pieces. And then I've also printed off, and obviously these are not the real size, but I've also printed off all the equipment cards and all of the stat cards as well for the different factions. So yes, I've kind of sleeved some up here, just done these ones myself for when I'm doing my playthroughs. I think from what I've been told, the stat cards for the Walking Dead characters are the same size as the ones in the original Walking Dead boxes from All Out War. So these ones in card sleeves are just the ones I've made. These are not the real size. But yeah, they're handy enough for me to get my little crew together. Mark is also saying, Green Stuff Games is saying, tell me everything. Mark is saying Team BlackJack, hashtag Team BlackJack. So for those that didn't see it on Ronnie's video last week, myself and Paul from TNG Productions are going to have a bit of a Walking Dead call to arms battle. We're going to get together and we are going to have a bit of a throwdown. It's to see who wins the right to play against Ronnie Renton of Mantic Games on one of Mantic's Monday live streams. So that's going to be interesting. So we've already picked our factions, because we've kind of gone thematic rather than, we haven't just kind of hidden away and built the filthiest lists we could find. We've both picked the theme for our factions. And Paul's putting together, if anybody hasn't seen the TNG Productions channel, their Walking Dead videos have some really, really nice terrain. So we'll be playing on some of that terrain, and the board will be kind of themed around our two factions. So I'll leave a little bit of a sneak peek tonight. I'll be playing the prisoner faction. So yes, mine will be, I'm just looking over there now because I've got a bunch of miniatures that are kind of in their orange jumpsuits there, half painted up at the minute, and I'll be putting some of those on video soon. So yeah, I've picked the prisoner faction. So we'll see how that one pans out. I won't tell you what Paul's got. I'll leave him to disclose all of that on his channel. But we'll be having a nice board all set up for that game. So yes, make sure you head over to that Mantic video, the one from Ronnie on Friday, and get in the comments whether you're hashtag Team BlackJack or hashtag Team TNG. And I want to see more. I want to see miles more BlackJacks in there than TNGs. That's for sure. Let's have a look. Alex is saying, is the points cost more for characters in Calls to Arms? How many points is average game? How long does an average game last? So the points costs have changed in Call to Arms. So the cards from the original game don't you can't just use the ones from the original All Out War in this game because their points costs have changed, and it's slightly different with some of the keywords and some of the special actions they've got. An average game, I would say, and this is kind of about 300 points. You can play as low as 200 points, but you can play up to kind of 500-600 points if you want. If you play a 300-point game, that's what we'll be kind of playing on the video. The 300-point game should get you somewhere between maybe 9 to 11 miniatures. Something like that. That gives you a rough idea. So for example, if I look through some of my cards, and I've told you kind of the prisoners, if you like. So one of my prisoners is Dexter, and he's 52 points. So he's quite high. And then I've also got Thomas, who's another prisoner, and he's 14 points. So that kind of gives you the range. I think I'm just kind of very quickly looking over these now. I don't think there's anybody kind of less than 10 points. I can see a 10-point character there. I don't think anybody is less than 10. And then I think we've got Rick here as well. Is like Rick Grimes is the prison advisor. So Rick, when he's in his prison armor, is like 65 points. So that'll give you an idea of the range of the points costs. And then obviously you add on as well any equipment that you decide to take for them. And there's quite an interesting way of building your teams up so that you, of your 300 points, say that's a 300-point game, of those 300 points, no more than half of that can be allies. So if you're playing with the Woodbury faction, more than half, including equipment, needs to be of the Woodbury faction, and then you can draft in allies. And there are some characters that are just cast as followers who don't have a particular faction, and they can count towards your faction allowance. So you could have, say, 100 points of Woodbury guys, you could have 60 points of followers, and then the remainder could be allies from other factions. And then it is also kind of lawful and unlawful. Is it lawful and begins with an R, I think it is it? I forget what the name is now. That's not very good, is it? Where are we? Lawful and ruthless. That's the word I was looking for. And then there's some neutrals as well. So you have to either be lawful and neutral or ruthless and neutral. You can't mix ruthless and lawful. And games last, I would say, maybe about an hour and a half at about 300 or 400 points. As you get to know the game, it'll obviously speed up, but that's roughly where my games have been at recently. Let's have a look. Paul is saying, I believe there's some photos in the Call to Arms rulebook of some vehicles that he painted. Not 100% certain, but being told some items were given to Mantic for photo shoot. Yeah, like I say, the version I've got doesn't have any photographs in it all. I can't really show you on screen, but as you can see, there's lots of. It's basically just kind of text with a bit of editing and stuff in there as well. So I don't have any of the pictures, but it'll be really awesome to see that book when it's out, because I know there's quite a few people from the community submitted pictures, and I'm not sure if people know yet which ones have been included. Christian saying, I'm looking forward to Call to Arms, but we'll probably only get the rule book and card sets as I want to fill out on the miniatures via All Out War. Considering getting Vanguard as well. Yeah, so if you already have a bunch of miniatures from All Out War. All you will need to play will be the rule book. I think I'm right in thinking that the actual stats will be in the book and you'll be able to just write them out by hand. But I would suggest it's probably worth picking up the cards as well, as the cards, it's just, I find it personally easier to have the cards laid out in front of me. One good thing I think as well is that the characters are basically kind of like what you see is what you get. So if Rick has a hatchet as the miniature, he has a hatchet on his card. You can equip him with other equipment, but it just gives you a bit of a visual reminder of what they've actually got as well. So that's quite nice. And as for Vanguard, mate, yeah, I think you know I love Vanguard. I've signed up for the Vanguard tournament at Mantic again later on this year. I'm looking forward to maybe painting up a new faction, I think, for that tournament. Jason's coming with me as well, and he's got Northern Alliance, I think, and Basileans. So he's looking at one of those two. So who knows what I'll be painting up for that one. Michael's saying, a little worried my All Out War is going to be forgotten, but Call to Arms does look amazing. I must admit, I was a bit concerned as well about the player base being split between two different kinds of games. But the more I know about it now, All Out War is the solo game. It's the sort of co-op game. It's the player versus player, very thematic, story-driven game. And if you like playing those kind of casual games, All Out War is still the game for you. If you want to play something that's a little bit more competitive, something that maybe will get played at tournaments, something that is a bit more action, I would say, because All Out War is very, very kind of sneaky and trying not to get caught by the walkers, and it's very kind of, it's almost like chess in a way. Like if I do this, this is going to happen, and then that'll happen next turn. All Out War, Call to Arms is a little bit different now. So think of it more sort of a little bit more abstract, as if to say all of the action is happening at the same time. So if you fire a gun over at the left-hand side of the board, the walkers will be pulled towards that noise, but then once the walkers have activated, they don't activate again that turn. So it becomes quite tactful that you can pull the walkers over to one side, and then you can start shooting your guns and your ranged stuff, and you can really start battling with your opponent. Now the walkers are still a threat. Like don't think that they're not a threat. They're just, it's almost as if it's further along the storyline that the survivors have learned how to kind of deal with them a little bit now. They're still a threat to be dealt with, but they're not the threat that they were in All Out War. You still have to worry about them. You've got to watch out for herds forming now. So if you get 5 walkers together, they'll form a herd, and herds can break through barriers. They roll 10 red dice when they attack. They're an absolute nightmare to deal with. So there's all sorts of things to look for in that. But the games are similar enough that you'll appreciate the similarities, but they're different enough that they give you a different play experience. And I would suggest that anybody that does enjoy All Out War definitely gives Call to Arms a try. And anybody that comes in at Call to Arms, it's definitely worth kind of looking at All Out War as well, because it's a bit more slow paced, I would say. It's the tension comes from the event cards and the build up of the threat tracker in All Out War. The tension in Call to Arms comes from that player versus player kind of interactions, and it really is a lot of fun. Where are we at now? Baza is saying, oh, Michael's saying, didn't get the cards on my playtest PDF. No, mate, I don't think anybody did. Nobody's got the PDF for the cards, that's for sure. Baza's saying, how much Walking Dead starter set cost? I think you can pick it up for about 25 quid now, mate. It's not too expensive. Definitely worth the, because you can play it solo, you can play it co-op as well. It's quite a nice game to just kind of sit and, even to play with the young ones if they're aware of kind of the Walking Dead TV series or something like that, or even the comic books. It's quite a nice game to play with younger ones. All the miniatures come single piece as well, so you really can open the box and just kind of throw it down and start playing. Brendan is saying, good evening, Brendan Bates, by the way. Thank you very much for coming at the chat. Says, what's the general opinion of Kings of War Historical? I had high hopes, but was quite disappointed. I'll be absolutely honest, mate. I've not played the historical side of it. I've heard people have played it, and I've heard people liked it. They basically, I think it was always designed to just be a rule set you could use your miniatures with. It was never really designed to be kind of massively supported. It was almost just here's a really simple because Kings of War is quite a sort of a straightforward rule set, and the tactics are in the game rather than actually the difficulty of learning the rules. It was more a case of here's a version to use. So I don't think it was ever really meant to be massively supported. I might be talking out of turn there, but that was the impression I got, mate. So yeah, I've not played it. I don't know what other people's thoughts are. Kieran is in tonight as well. Good evening, Kieran. He said, even in all Mantic games, who are those guys and what are they smashing? They're smashing pumpkins. That's what they're doing, mate. VJ saying, online play will make Super Fantasy Brawl great for my game group. Yes, I think it will as well, mate. We'll have to have a game online. It seems we're probably unlikely to ever sit down across the table anytime soon. We'll have to have a game online, mate. Bob's saying to Kieran, it's some rank and flank game. It's going to hex bases. And you can use them in Dreadball as well. Andy Smith in as well. He says, hello, just been out for Sarah's birthday. She's 15. Happy birthday, Sarah, and good evening, Andy. Steve saying he quite likes the historical book. Played a few games using it. Joel Ridley says rancid. I don't know what that's in relation to. It was when I was thinking there they are. Christian's having a chat with Glyn there. Andy Smith says, have I missed Walking Dead All Out War? We're just kind of chatting about it now, mate. I think you probably came in about the right time. We've got Richard in. Good evening, mate. And he's saying, 3rd edition, news to me, I must investigate. So it was just announced today by Mantic. And like I said earlier on, if you missed it, I've known for a little while now that it's coming out and I've been sworn to secrecy. But now it's out. I thought, why not? Oh, now it's been announced and it's coming out in October. The book comes out in October. Let's have a bit of a natter about it tonight as well. A bit more chat there about historical and seeing Matt's back. Joel says, ironic that it's called All Out War and is sneaky like chess. Yes, it's funny because I had this conversation with the Mantic guys. They said, like, with hindsight, All Out War would have been a better name for the second iteration. But yeah, such is the power of hindsight. Steve saying that the twins must be asleep. Glenn saying he recently went through a Blood Bowl craze, trying to continue the old games. I can't play Blood Bowl, mate. I've tried a few times and I really just don't enjoy it, sadly. Johnny Jambo's in. Evening, fella. He says, made it back alive from Alice Springs, even to all the legacyers and BlackJackers. Buzz is saying, he's 12-year-old, loves The Walking Dead. It's a pretty straightforward rule set, mate. There's some nice little kind of, once you get your head around how the rules work, and they're pretty simple, there's some real kind of tactics in it. So if you make a noise, it attracts the closest walker. If you kind of shoot a gun, it'll attract all walkers within, say, 10 inches, and they'll move towards you. So what you can do is you can almost sneak up behind one of your opponents. You can fire a gun and drag the walkers towards them because they're closer. So it becomes kind of tactical how you can kind of maneuver think of the walkers as almost moving scenery that attack you. It really is quite a clever system. I'm just listening there. I think it's absolutely just bucking it down now. After I was saying how sunny it was, I think we're having a bit of a sun shower. Craig is saying he's managed to finish the Frog Monsters from Hellboy. I'll have a look at that picture, mate, later on. Thank you for that. Paul Roberts is in. Good evening, Paul. How are you doing? He's saying historical was his entry to Mantic, not for dedicated, historically accurate games, but loads of fun. I think that was always meant to be the plan, mate, yeah. Steve says lately had quite a few crossover games with standard kings, plus adding in mythical allies. Interesting, mate. Paul said, if you're at Spearhead 2, hopefully we'll get a game. Hopefully, mate. Yeah, that would be cool. It'd be really good to have a game. I'm sure there's probably a reasonable chance for the amount of people that's there. But yeah, let's hope so, mate. Maybe we'll see if we can get first game arranged. That would be cool. Spud says, hey up, Andy, and everyone in the chat. Sorry, I'm really late. You're not really late, mate. You're perfectly on time. That's absolutely fine, mate. Michael says, besides the announcement that's coming, do you have any news on it? I do, mate, but I'm not really sure how much I can share, if I'm honest. I think it's like, I've known for a reasonable amount of months now that it was coming. I didn't have a final date. I knew it was coming at the end of the year. And I do know more than that's been announced, but because they haven't announced it, I don't really want to say too much. So I'm kind of sticking to just what's in the kind of, in the announcement at the moment, until I know I can say more. I've just noticed there's been an awesome donation there from VJ. Thanks so much, mate. He says, Andy, definitely, mate. However, don't doubt we'll sit down in person. 12 months ago, I would have said the same about Uncle Adam, and I never say never. Yes, mate. We'll I'm sure at some point one of us will travel and we'll get to have a game with the other. But until then, let's have an online game. That would be it. That, to be honest, any of you folks that are not kind of in and around the UK, the chances of us crossing paths is probably reduced a little bit. But if any of you are into Super Fantasy Brawl and you want to have an online game with me, it will be an awesome way to have a game with kind of some people I never really get the chance to meet. So that will be cool. Let's have a look. What did I miss in the chat there? Spud's asking how everyone is. Joel saying would like to do Kings of War but don't really know anyone locally who's into it. Where are you based again, Joel? My mind's gone blank now. Part of me thinks that you're local to me, but I'm not sure, mate. Let me know whereabouts you are, because Kings of War's got a pretty decent community now. Green stuff is saying, is there much difference with equipment cards? So the equipment cards, Josie, I'm not sure about points cost-wise. I'm assuming that there has been a bit of points tweaked, and I think one of the things that has changed is now there is short, medium, and long range. I might be having a bit of a brain fart here, but I don't think that was in the original All-Out War. So some of the equipment cards, things like guns now, have a dice for short range, a dice for medium range, and a dice for long range, and it kind of shows up the power of sort of the accuracy kind of drifting away over longer distances. Because I don't know whether everybody knows this, but sort of 300 or 400 point games will be played on two sort of 2 foot by 2 foot mats, or 20 inch by 20 inches as the official Mantic ones are. So you play 2 mats side by side, and that allows you much more space to kind of maneuver around. It becomes less tightly packed, but adds to the kind of depth of still getting out and doing those supply runs, getting things off the board, doing the scenarios, giving you range to want to take ranged weapons and be able to shoot them, because you certainly don't really want to be shooting ranged weapons in All-Out War. They create too much noise, and it can cause you some real damage from the walkers as well. So yeah, it's really interesting, the new rules. Where we at? Richard saying he's checking out on the blog. He's well chuffed. May have an army painted by the time 3rd is released. Well, so for those of you that might have seen my picture a little while ago where I was washing stones in my garden, you'll now not be surprised to know that they were for the basis for my Kings of War army. So when Kings of War 3rd edition drops, I will have a Kings of War army for then. And I'm going to be showing basically how to put an army together and get it painted. Not in the Bob Point army in a weekend job, but just to show that you don't have to kind of, because it's put me off in the past. It's one of the reasons I don't have an army now. You don't have to take forever. That I'm going to show some shortcuts. I'm not going to be using contrast paints. So I want to show you that you don't have to spend a load of money on sort of fancy paints to try and speed things up. There's lots you can do with rattle cans. There's lots you can do with little tricks. And also just basically show you how to get an army together quite quickly. So yes, watch out for that. That was part of the reason why I've had a bit of a heads up, so I could start planning some stuff and get some stuff ready for that. So yeah, watch out for that in the future. But I wonder if anybody can guess. I think somebody might guess in the chat. But if anybody can guess which army I'm putting together for Kings of War. Henry is saying, good evening, Henry, by the way. He said it's been a while. He said he's stoked about Kings of War. Yes, mate, I think you and quite a few others. Kirill is saying, good evening, mate. Last I can be on stream. Nice to see you live, mate. Thank you very much for coming in. Mark's saying there's 2v2 on Super Fantasy Brawl tomorrow. That will be interesting to see, mate. I'll just jump off the top of the chat there. Lost my place. Joel says, despite the misleading name, I'm liking the sound of this All-Out War. Yeah, if you check out my channel, mate, if you check out some of my older videos, in fact, some of my first videos, my first ever video was about All-Out War Walking Dead. It was the game that got me back into gaming. It was the game that kicked off my YouTube channel. And it's something I've kind of played pretty much, I still play it for fun now. It's not like it's a game that sort of sits on my shelf and never gets played. Jason and I, that was the game I used to introduce my brother-in-law Jason into gaming. Like 12 months ago now, basically, I bought him the All-Out War starter set as a birthday present. And we've been to a tournament together to Paul Welch's tournament last year, So yeah, it's kind of it's been one of them constants really. It's a game that's always kind of been around in the background, and I absolutely love it. I probably don't talk about it enough if I'm honest, but yeah, it was kind of the game that made me aware of Mantic. It was the game that got me back into gaming again after having quite a big break, and it was the game that started all this YouTube journey as well. Dice Tale says, I'd like to see the Walking Dead solo co-op rules to see if you make it for Fantasy Vanguard. Love the TV show, but don't quite feel put the game yet. The Walking Dead solo co-op rules to see if you make it for Fantasy. That would be interesting, mate. I don't know how... There's some really interesting mechanics in The Walking Dead about how the walkers are controlled and how you kind of increase the threat. It'll be interesting to try and kind of cobble something together, though. It definitely sounds good. Andy saying, sounds good. Best get the figures painted. There's also videos on my YouTube channel about how to paint your walkers. There might be some more coming soon about how to paint the survivors. Richard Stockdale's in. Richard, good evening, buddy. For those that don't know, Richard is one of the rules committee for The Walking Dead. So if you don't like the game, blame him. No, he's basically Mark Latham is the guy who wrote the rules, and he's been doing the bulk of the kind of the rule writing. But Richard and the other guys on the rules committee have been doing all of the play testing and tweaking some stuff and keeping Mark right, and they've done a great job of it. Alex says, can't wait to see the Whisperers in Call to Arms and All Out War. I wonder how they work with the walkers. I'll tell you now, mate, they're not in the rule book. That's because they're not released yet, but they will be released. Kind of, I think it's been kind of confirmed. I don't know if I'm releasing. I don't know if I'm kind of letting the cat out of the bag here, but I'm pretty sure it's been announced really that the Whisperers will be coming at some point in the future. Henry is saying had a Hoot Kings of War tournament this weekend. 3 players brought historical list. I've seen a couple of tournaments recently where people have brought historical lists into the main tournaments as well. Richard saying, I know everything. Henrik is there as well. Glenn saying, by the way, Andy, have you done a stream of games you're looking forward to mostly in 2019? I haven't, mate, actually. Maybe it's something worth doing a video on it, just the kind of stuff I'm looking forward to seeing. That would be a cool thing. Michael says it was announced that there will be a special edition. A special edition? A special edition of what, mate? Have I missed that? A special edition of Kings of War. Third edition is that. I don't know anything about that, if that's the case, mate, yeah. Joel Sinney's in Preston. Right, so Preston, why? I'm pretty sure... If there's anybody UK Kings of War community, is there anyone local around Preston, or is there a group around Preston that plays Kings of War? Because there's certainly quite a lot. It's quite a big group around the north. So there's a group starting up now around the Newcastle area. There's definitely loads of groups kind of Leeds and Wakefield area around there. There's a load of guys around Manchester. I'm pretty sure there's something around Preston. I'm pretty sure there is, mate. Richard saying he's in Burnley. Spud said he loves the Kings of War. He's working on his Roman army that can be used in the historical or normal. I've just seen there's been a donation there as well by Different Gear TV. Buddy, thank you very much, man. You don't need to do that. I really do appreciate it. It's awesome. Thank you very much. I don't know what to say. Thanks. I've completely lost my train of thought now. Thank you very much, buddy. Where are we at? Kirill is saying, shocking 3rd edition news. Just translated Mantic blog into Russian for local player. Yeah, I can't help you with that one, mate. But I think there's obviously going to be some changes, but it's not going to be like a kind of wholesale changes to the point where like the base sizes are all going to be completely different, or armies are going to be kind of wiped out and you can't use this army anymore. It's not going to be stuff like that. It's more about refinement, really. It's more about expanding the lore. It's about tidying up some things that maybe don't work quite so well. It's about sort of streamlining some of the points, maybe. Yeah, Spud saying maybe they'll change their bases to all circle. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, mate. Andy says, has the Munch mug arrived yet? I don't think it has, mate. I haven't had a notification to say that it's been shipped yet, so I'm assuming it hasn't arrived. Joel is, they're having a bit of a chat there. Skullmunch is giving me grief about the mug. Michael Baker says, is there any news on Hellboy expansion packs? I unfortunately missed the Kickstarter. So I think the expansions are certainly coming with Wave 2, which is, I think off the top of my head, is around August, September time. and then they will start to hit retail, I think, at that point. There was one, I think it's the Hellboy in Mexico expansion, that was Kickstarter only, but everything else is going to be available at retail, mate. So I think if you think around September, October time, you should start to see them hitting the retail shelves. Flying Mammals, give me a little wave there. Good evening. Didn't see you come in. I hope I haven't missed you earlier on, but good evening. Michael is saying, I did 2,000 points in a month with the mighty Blurple. You can do that. Ogres or Orcs? No, it's neither of those. Richard says, what army you're going for then? It's up to you, mate. See if somebody can guess. Henrik saying it's goblins. It's not goblins. Mark's giving a little wave there. Glenn Griffin says Abyssal Dwarfs. Good evening, Glenn Griffin, by the way. It's not Abyssal Dwarfs. Christian said it's Forces of Nature or Forces of the Abyss. Yes, it's one of those two. Basil said he was looking at getting into Kings of War. I think I saw a box set for something called Northern Alliance. The Northern Alliance one, buddy, will be for Kings of War Vanguard. So Kings of War Vanguard is like a skirmish version of Kings of War. It's like set in the same universe, if you like. But there is a Northern Alliance army coming for Kings of War later this year as well. Yeah, Steve's saying Abyssals all the way. I think, Steve, you might have saw me asking a question on the Kings of War group about Abyssals. That might have given that one away. And Skullmunch is saying Ogres, hopefully. The Ogres are going to be an army I'll probably use for some home games. I might not paint them up. I might just get them on the base so I can use them to kind of play some games. And Henrik's saying the amount of... Michael is saying to Henrik, the amount of stones being on one per base could be Ogres. No, mate, I'm going to be making like kind of lava bases for my Abyssals to be standing on. So those rocks are going to be kind of the rocks that the miniatures will stand on, and then the base will be all lava. So I've done a first version, like a trial version of that base. I ordered all my bases up and stuff. I've done a trial version of that base, and then I'll be showing you how I've painted them as well later. I've just got to that donation as well. Thank you, Different Gear TV. Thanks so much. Chris is saying, yep, sorry I'm late. Never worry about that, mate. John is saying that there's some new Northern Alliance as well. I tell you what, there's a lot of chat tonight. I'm liking this. I'm not going to catch up with all of the chat here because it's going faster than I can catch up. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. See there, Glenn Griffin has said he bought a good bit of Walking Dead stuff recently, getting into the game. I think Mantic should do a Walking Dead RPG. That might be quite cool, mightn't it? Who knows if the Kings of War RPG goes well? Who knows where it could go? Different Gear TV said, whoops, did a super chat but didn't put the message. Just wanted to say another great show, putting in some money for future projects. Thank you, buddy. Honestly, it all really does help me to try and grow things into things like lights and cameras and all that kind of stuff. You wouldn't believe how much money I've spent on cables over the last year as well. It's all that kind of stuff all takes up money, so it's hugely appreciated. Thank you very much. Michael there is saying as well, there's one major change, not in the rules, but in the setup. Have you seen my videos? I've been foretelling it already. I haven't seen your video recently. I've also just seen a comment at the bottom. Also, Kieran is saying there, Kings of War 3rd Edition, extended lore and more art. 380 pages. It'll have more maps. Yes. Christian's obviously involved in this as well. So Christian probably knows more than I do as well, but I know more than I can tell. But yes, 380 pages is going to be a fantastic book. People have been screaming out for more lore and more background about Mantica and the wider world around Mantica. You're going to be really impressed when you see this lot. It's for all those people that kind of came over from fantasy. A big complaint has always been, the world's not as rich as the old world, and the stories are missing and all that kind of stuff. Mantic have been working really hard on building that background out, and just because you haven't seen it yet doesn't mean it hasn't been happening in the background. So there's a whole load of stuff in the new rule book. There's the new RPG, which is building a whole load of the world around that as well. There's the new novels that are coming out by Something Wing Publishing, I think it is. Winged Hussar, that's what it is. Winged Hussar Publishing are writing some novels for Kings of War. Mantic, for all those kind of things, don't necessarily sell miniatures. They are really building the world around Kings of War, and it's one of the things that's really kind of pricked up my ears and made me kind of really give it that push to get involved in it this time around. So I'm looking forward to reading some of that. I've not read any of it yet, but I do know that there's a whole host of stuff in there. Whether it's good or not, I'll leave that up to you. We all have different tastes. I've not read it yet, so I'll leave it up to you. but it's also expanding the Kings of War Vanguard world as well. And I love Vanguard. It'd be nice to know a bit more about the world that Vanguard's setting as well. So I really am looking forward to that. Where are we at? Paul Palms is in as well. Good evening, Paul Palms. How are you doing, buddy? He said he's gutted to be missing the show tonight. Got to do girlfriend duty. Catch up later. Thank you for dropping in, buddy. No doubt you'll catch this at some point. Steve said, hurrah, do I win a mug? I'll tell you what, mate. When I get my army together, me and you, let's have a game of Kings of War. And if you beat me, you can have a mug. We'll do it that way. How about that? Kirill says, anybody know anything about the League or the Horned Skull? Yes, Kirill. I know all about it. And I can't say a thing. And I'm sorry that that's really kind of like a bit like, oh, thanks very much. However, I have had a chance to play test it. I've had a bit of a chat with the Mantic guys in the background. We've been chatting about doing some video stuff for it. I really, really can't say anymore. That one, I'm kind of under NDA and I can't say anything. But yes, I know all about it. And what can I say? When you hear what it is, I'm sure you'll be excited for it. Let's have a look where we're at. Scollman said, is he calling Kieran Christian now? No, we've definitely got a Kieran in and we've definitely got a Christian in, and I know which is which. We've got Matt James is coming as well. Good evening, Matt. Thank you for joining the chat. He says, well, today's been interesting. It certainly has. It's kind of, I know people have been chatting about it for a little while, about when's it going to come, when's it going to come, is it going to come? But Kings of War is 10 years old this year. I think people kind of, you forget how long it's been around, and actually just to get to a third edition after 10 years just shows that the game's just kind of ready for a little bit of a tightening up. I mean, it's already been a really kind of well-respected rule set. Alessio, who wrote the original rule set, did a fantastic job on those initial kind of, 4 or 8 pages, whatever it was, back in the day when it was on a leaflet as opposed to a book. The rules committee over the years, people like Dan King and Nick Williams and all of the guys that's involved in that, they've done a really, really good job to bring it to where it is now, with all of the Clash of Kings releases as well, to keep those like annual updates fresh. But as Ronnie said in the blog today, it's kind of it's ready. There's enough needs to be changed now. It needs to be tweaked that it's ready for a third edition rather than just a bit of a tinkering. And that's allowing them to address some bits of issues. It's allowing them to add all of this fantastic new lore in. It's allowing them to expand out that world beyond the continent of Mantica into the entire world. It's quite an exciting time for Kings of War players, and I feel like it's a perfect time for me to take that plunge and dive into it. So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to it. Steve says, Andy, you're on. Yes. Where else are we at? VJ saying, so Andy knows 2 things now. I know, I can't believe that other thing still hasn't happened yet. As soon as it happens, I will tell you and I'll say, that's what I was talking about. I'm starting to think it's not going to happen now. And if it doesn't happen in the next, let's say 6 months, I'll tell you what it was, because maybe they've pulled the plug on it. Where are we at? Skullman just saying it must be something to do with 2 names. Joel saying, that's very poor of Mr. BlackJack. Is he suggesting Lancashire's not worth visiting? Have I missed something? Is he giving me grief? Andy's been invited to the next one, but he's snubbing me. I'm not snubbing you, mate. What I said was I need to double check the date, but if I can make it, I will. So there you go. So the only reason I won't be there is if I can't make it because I've got the kids or something like that, or we got prior engagement. But yes, I would love to come, and thank you very much for the invite, mate. I'm not snubbing you at all. Yeah, VJ saying, has it came out yet? No, it hasn't, mate. It honestly hasn't. Paul saying there was an announcement about the League game in tabletop gaming last week. I think only subscribers have the issue so far, though. So what I did find interesting was I wanted to put a picture of the Horned Skull thing from League into the thumbnail for tonight's video, and I wanted to kind of tease it a little bit as well. But the video that came out for it last week, I can't find it anymore now. It's almost like it's disappeared now. So who knows? Maybe it's been pushed back. Maybe they've changed their mind at the minute. Maybe something's changing, but I couldn't find the information that I was looking for. Paul is saying, really love Kings of War, but find some of their miniatures to be a little uninspiring. The elves and most of the Basileans need an overhaul. Well, the Basileans have just had an overhaul, haven't they? So there's quite a lot of work went on for Kings of War Vanguard, and I think they're starting to filter now through to the Basileans. So some of the original older ones that I think even Ronnie's kind of admitted himself that they weren't the greatest of sculpts really, but it didn't make sense just to redo them at that point in time. Not when they'd spent all that money on molds and stuff like that. But Kings of War Vanguard gave them an opportunity to redo some of that. Some of the new Basilean stuff is absolutely beautiful. The elves, I actually don't mind the elves. I think they're just a bit different. I've got a bit of a soft spot for them. They're not the kind of GW elves, and they're not the Lord of the Rings elves. I like the fact that they try to do something different. Now, I wouldn't disagree. Some of the older Kings of War stuff, there's some sculpts that aren't the best. But if you kind of fast forward to today, some of the new stuff that's coming out, the Northern Alliance faction is going to absolutely knock it out of the park. Some of the Forces of Abyss stuff is really, really nice. The Night Stalkers, I almost said Nightcrawlers there, the Night Stalkers army are absolutely fantastic as well. There's some really, really good stuff there now. So some of the older stuff, maybe there's a few armies that leave a little bit to be desired, but there's plenty of choice now that you can still field all Mantic armies and have really, really nice looking armies. But obviously it's personal taste, a lot of that as well. Where are we at? What have I missed? Sean says he likes Kings of War, but gone are the days of playing massive 6x4 war games. I kind of felt like that as well, mate, but Kings of War is something that I've always been interested in, and I've always wanted to give it a go. And I'm going to use this kind of 3rd edition as an excuse to pull an army together. Who knows if I'll still be playing in 6 months' time or a year's time, but I'm going to give it a push this time. Glenn there is saying the market's been skirmish games. I think it's just one of those. There are a lot of skirmish games now. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with Parabellum's new war game, which Conquest, which is again a 6x4 game. It's rank and flank. It's written by Alessio Cavatore. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because the miniatures are beautiful, but they're a completely different scale to every other game on the market. So it will be interesting to see how that goes. Matt is saying to Steve, I'll tell you everything when you beat me at Kings of War. What's in it for me? Kieran says, the Horn Skull image has been on the recent Mantic newsletters. I was looking for it, mate, and I couldn't find it. And I also couldn't find the teaser video with it on either. I thought it looked like it had been removed, but maybe I just couldn't find it at the time. So, where are we at now? We're at nearly 10 o'clock. The night is flying by. The night is flying over. What do people want to know? Have you got any questions about Call to Arms? Do you know what it's about? Are you kind of, is there a certain faction that you're interested in that you might want a tidbit of information? What about Kings of War 3rd edition? Is there anything that you're really looking forward to? Are you planning to build a new army for Kings of War 3rd edition? Or what about the idea of Mantic absolutely smashing it at the moment? Are you kind of surprised at just the amount of stuff that's been released? If you're a Dead Zone player, you'd be all over Dead Zone and the new stuff that's just been released for Escalation. If you're a Vanguard player, there's Vanguard Summer Campaign coming with a kind of like a scenario book or something like that. There's a bit of new stuff coming for that soon as well. If you're a Hellboy player, how are you enjoying that now it's out? Have you got some of your stuff painted yet? If you are into Dreadball, that seems to be having a bit of a resurgence at the minute as well. I definitely hear more about it. I've got a Dreadball team over there that's half painted that I made a start on a couple of weeks ago. If you're Dead Zone, we've mentioned. If you're a Warpath player, there's some stuff coming for Warpath now. So did I just see there's been a big FAQ for Warpath recently? Call to Arms obviously coming now from Walking Dead stuff. Mantic are absolutely smashing it at the minute. They're putting so much stuff out that if you play any Mantic game, you can pretty much guarantee if you haven't had something new recently, you'll be getting something new soon. So what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts about that? Let's see. There's a bit of chat, random chat going on there. I'll not try and drop into that one now. Richard's saying thankfully he's got his games room now. That's pretty awesome, that, mate, as well. Your missus is golden, mate, for having you letting you do that. Bob's saying the unique thing about Kings of War is you're moving 12 to 15 components, which is the same as a skirmish game. That's kind of where my head's at. If I can pull together an army, you are just because it's all multi-based. It's just like there's my 15 things. It's almost like a skirmish game on a bigger scale, and that's almost the kind of thought process. If I thought I had to line them all up every time I played, a bit like you did with Fantasy, and then take individual models off, I don't think I'd be as interested, if I'm honest. It's the multi-basing that's making me want to get involved. Excuse me while I have a drink, folks. And it is water tonight, not on the pint of vodka. Joel is saying, it's also the past. It's GW's fault we have stupid single casualty removal. Yes, single. That's kind of what I was talking about, really. So, yeah, there is no single casualty removal in there in Kings of War. Sorry. Different Gear says, just emailed Mantic support, ask how they sent my order from last Monday. I get worried because deliveries are bad in Spain. Yeah, Mantic support's great. You'll probably get a hold of Elvis. Elvis is golden, really is a nice guy. If there's something he can do to help you out, he will help you out, so don't worry about that, mate. Michael says, we played the beta Call to Arms pretty good, but the start placement of the walkers is a bit wonky. I'm not really sure, mate. I've not encountered that, so maybe something's changed since you played it. Paul is saying, have they got rid of the post-melee bounce? That's what put me off. Richard's just saying the pushback is now optional. Yeah, it's quite interesting, actually. So the reason you did that before was you had to be out of combat at the end of a turn kind of thing. You didn't stay in combat. Now that melee combat has changed, so if you end up in melee combat in the middle of your turn, so for example, if you move into a walker or a walker moves into you, you can now instantly attack that walker. Or if you start your turn in contact with a walker, you can now move out of melee. You can kind of like sort of disengage away from that as well. So there's some new rules in there. It flows a lot smoother now. I think the all-out war is kind of broken down into real phases, if you like, where Call to Arms is much more of a kind of a faster flowing, probably a war game that you're more used to. So yeah, you can choose to break away now. If it helps you to stay in contact, then stay in contact. Where are we at? Claudio is saying, love the pace of Mantic and the quality. Can't even catch up because I play most of their games. Yeah, if you do play a lot of them, mate, I can imagine it's quite a tough time at the moment. We've got Jack in there from Shaggy Wargaming. Good evening, buddy. He says, managed to get here. So Kings of War 3rd edition, not had much chance to get in the second in. Kings of War 2nd edition, I think, has been around for 5 years now, mate. If you haven't had a chance to get it in, that's your fault. But, yes, you've got until October before 3rd edition is released. And anything you kind of buy now, it's not going to be kind of sort of invalidated or anything like that. You'll still be able to play it in 3rd edition. There's just a bit of kind of tweaking and tightening up with the rules and stuff. Flying Mama says, hashtag boring glass watch. As soon as it's not blazing sunshine, and as soon as the summer passes, and it's the northeast of England, so let's be honest, it'll probably pass in a week. We'll get back to coffees on a night, but at the minute, bloody hell, I spent like 7 hours in the car today in the absolute baking sunshine. So yeah, water's all I need at the minute. Matt James is saying it's not water, not vodka, it must be Bacardi. I don't think I could do a pint of Bacardi, mate. I think I'd probably pass out on the live stream if that was the case. If everybody wants to donate $100 each, I'll a pint of Bacardi. No, I'm only joking. Kieran says, Mantic really are on full steam ahead. Next 6 months are chocker for new content. Vanguard, Trident Realm Warband released in July. Basilean, Kings of War Army in July. Vanguard Supplement and Undead in the autumn. That's what I mean, mate, when I say it's smashing it. Honestly, they've just... I sometimes think that they kind of, in the past, they've spread themselves a little bit thin. In games like Dreadball, maybe don't get the attention they deserve because they're fantastic games. But it feels at the minute they're starting to get into a nice kind of schedule of sort of giving something to every game on a bit of a rotation. Feels like they're really getting into their stride now. Their marketing's sort of a million miles away from where it was like kind of 5 years ago. The community stuff is just growing all the time. Rob does a fantastic job with that. Customer support wise with Elvis and the guys in the back rooms. They've obviously got Matt now doing the video stuff. You've got Clive from a trade side of things. It just feels, and I'm sure I've missed a million people out as well, but it just feels like they've got a really, really solid team in place now, and it's just starting to click into place. And all the work they've been putting in over the last probably 12, 18 months, we're starting to see that work coming through now, and it really is starting to pay off. Mantic are going to be one to watch, I think, over the next 12 months. I think they're really they're kind of kicking on to a bit of a different level from where they've been in the past. You know, they suffered a little bit from maybe a few dodgy sculpts in the early days, and maybe pushing a lot of stuff through Kickstarter very quickly. But I think I feel like they've found their groove at the minute. They're in a good place. Bob's saying there, Elvis is one of the nicest guys in the business, a rising star. We've got Matt in as well. Good evening, Matt Stevens. I was just mentioning Matt there as well, the video guy. Nice to see you in, Matt. He's giving big love to Elvis. Richard said Elvis is the king. Of course he is. Michael is saying to Paul, the product line is as good as another brand. The affordable wargaming comes from a bit less quality than Games Workshop. It depends upon what you class as quality, mate. If you're talking about like sort of sculpts, if you like, then yes, I would agree. Games Workshop sculpts are probably pretty much better than anybody's. That's not a slight on Mantic. That's a quality thing. That GW with their sculptors and their resources and their facilities, they can produce fantastic miniatures. If we're talking about the quality of the games, I think then it's a completely different story. I think Mantic's rule sets are just easier to get into. I just find I can pick one up, I can read the book, and I know what I'm doing. I mean, a prime example is when Vanguard came out, I got sent the Vanguard rules early. I'd never demoed it, I'd never played it before, I didn't know what to do, and I read through that book and I could play the game within an hour. And me and my son managed to play a game and got straight into it for filming. I can't find myself doing that with things like Age of Sigmar. I can't do that with stuff like Warhammer 40k. And that might be me, that might be my fault. But if I struggle to learn a game from reading the rules, and I can with Mantic and I can't with GW, then that just shows how straightforward the Mantic stuff is. So if we're just talking about miniature quality, I think GW are on a bit of a different level to pretty much every company, not just Mantic. But when it comes to the games themselves, I think it's a different kettle of fish personally. Skullman says, interested to know people's thoughts. If GW release Rapid Fire, the pitchforks come out, but when Mantic do, we are praising them. What's they doing different? I think half of this, mate, is down to the fact that when GW release something, it is... so if you think about the stuff they release for sort of Warhammer 40,000, there's something new pretty much every week. It's a constant stream of new stuff for the same game, and it changes, and there's an update to this, and there's a tweak to the rules there, and then Apocalypse comes along where you can use these miniatures, and this is something different. Kill Team has another expansion that changes the game, and then 2 or 3 months later there's another expansion that changes the game again. That's what frustrates me a little bit about the GW model. With Mantic, they're just getting into a groove of releasing updates and new stuff. So if you take Dead Zone as an example, it's been a little while since Dead Zone's had something. Probably last year's summer campaign when they had something. So it's been about 12 months since something new's come out for that. If you talk about Kings of War as an example, they've announced the new 3rd edition's coming. But it was 5 years ago that the Kings of War sort of 2nd edition came out. Like The Walking Dead, the last time something new came for The Walking Dead was back end of last year, I think it was, when the Fear the Hunters expansion come out. So now we've got something new coming now. So I think the difference with Mantic is it's not just a constant bombardment for the same game all the time where people feel that they need to buy everything that comes out. And I know they don't, but people feel that they do. With the Mantic stuff at the minute, there is a good drip feed now of something new on a regular basis, but it's something new for each of their different IPs. And I think that's why I feel differently about it. I don't know if people agree. People might think I'm a hypocrite or I'm a fanboy or any of those kind of things. But that's how I see it. I see it different, as in the fact that if I just play The Walking Dead, for example, I've not exactly been swamped with something new every 2 or 3 weeks or every month for that game. And I just think at the minute I think there's a lot of stuff coming together for Mantic, and we're seeing releases for all of their different systems on a consistent basis now. I think that's more what I'm getting at, I think. Where we at, there's loads of chat coming in. Kirill says, today is completely 100% Mantic theme stream. It doesn't have to be, Kirill. I'm quite happy to chat about anything. It's just, I always have a theme for the night. Tonight the theme was like kind of Mantic smashing it, and like we're talking about All Out War, we're talking about Call to Arms, we're talking about Kings of War 3 because it's just been announced today. But if anybody wants to chat about any other game, we had a bit of Super Fantasy Brawl chat earlier on in the night. Always happy to chat about anything. VJ says there as well, it's a bit confusing for those of us that don't play their stuff. I guess, when it comes to these live chats, it's hard to sit here every week and come up with a topic that will appeal to every single person. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to mix it up. I'm trying to talk about stuff that I'm interested in. I'm trying to talk about stuff that I think other people are interested in. I try to throw in. So last week's was just about community. It was quite sort of broad. It was quite open. If people want to tell me what they want to talk about, I'll happily choose those for the topics. If people want to talk about anything they want to, they've just got to put stuff in the chat and I'll talk about anything. But the point of these live streams is I've got to kind of have a theme. Otherwise, I kind of sit here in silence waiting for something to talk about. So the topics are there just to generate discussion. And then where the chat goes is where the chat goes. If people want to talk about something different, that's what will happen. So if it's not your kind of thing, I kind of appreciate that. I know somebody wasn't happy when I did the Super Fantasy Brawl chat, but I had the opportunity to get Az from Mythic Games to come to my house and play the game live on stream. It would be foolish of me not to kind of take that opportunity. So I'm sorry if not every week suits everybody, but that's kind of how it is, really. I think Glenn must be off for the gym now. I hope you enjoy your workout, mate. Enjoy that one. Andy Smith is saying, I think the Kill Team expansion spoil it. That was what kind of spoiled it for me, mate. It was just too much too quickly, really. I play more than one game, and I wasn't even getting a chance to get kind of like a couple of games in before a new expansion was coming and it was something different. I think that's the biggest difference that I see between the GW releases and the Mantic stuff. Bob saying, Andy nailed it. Thanks, mate. VG saying, I've not seen any of it over here in Australia. Then again, I don't game outside my group or the Warhammer store. To be honest, Kings of War is massive in Australia. There's a really big Kings of War community over there. So if you're gaming in a Warhammer store, I guess you're never going to see it in there. But yeah, I'm sure if you looked online, you'd probably see it's quite a popular game over in Australia. Andy says GW could sell poo in a box and Peter would buy it. Comes with being number one, I guess, mate, doesn't it? Adam Edgar is in. Good morning, future boy. How are you doing? VJ says not criticising, it's just an observation. Yeah, it's hard, mate. I've been doing these live streams now for a couple of years, every single Monday. I think I've missed maybe 2 or 3 in 2 years. And coming up with new topics to talk about every single Monday can get quite hard. So if something new comes up in the news, if there's a new game coming up, if a company announces something new, if there's something I've bought or something I've played, that tends to be what I talk about. But these are for the community. If the community want to talk about something else, everybody can feel free to talk about something else. Furious George says, trouble with expansions for me is they come out too fast and I can't afford to get everything. Yeah, and I think that generally is the case, and that again, that's why I'm saying that I think it's a different case for the Mantic stuff here. I think they're getting into a routine of updating all of their games on a frequency with new stuff and new stuff to energize the community and new stuff to keep people interested, but it's not on a frequency that makes people feel that it's churning through it too fast, I think. Green Stuff Games is off now. Thanks for the tips. You are welcome. Nice to see you in. Skullman says, well said, mate. I have a super important question for you. When's the video due? When's the videos due? Which videos, mate? Which videos are you meaning, mate? Do you just mean the videos in general? Is that what it is? Dice Tail says, our kill team group kind of decided all in 200 points Commander Elite for most matches now. I think if you're in a group and you decide what you're playing kind of all together, the expansions are irrelevant. You just play what you want to play. But I think if you're doing more kind of pickup games, you almost need to keep up with it just to be able to get a pickup game, really. It says VJ says he thinks the expansions were overkill. Mark saying that he played. I didn't say hello to you, by the way, Mark. Good evening, mate. Says he's played more or less weekly since it came out. I really like Kill Team. I'm not dissing it as a game. It just got super confusing to to keep up with it. Bob's saying the Direct Misfire podcast is Aussie based, well worth a listen. We've got Dustin as well. Good evening, mate. How are you doing? Says quality of GW sculpts is technically great, but they have no soul. They are only edgelord cool. It's all personal taste, isn't it? Whether I personally like the sculpts or not is a completely different story. But I can't knock the quality. Their sculptors and their manufacturing like sort of output and the quality of the stuff, I think, is kind of without question, really. Hendrik is saying, every time I enter a Games Workshop store, I ask when they stock Kings of War. I'm sure that gets you lots of popular comments. Mark saying, looking forward to the terrain. Hope it's a good game, but I want the terrain for Vanguard. Terrain. Oh, I don't know what game we're talking about there for terrain, mate. Oh, Warcry. Yes, I know exactly what you mean, mate. I'm a bit worried about Warcry because they've been very, very quiet about it since they announced the last few bits and pieces. I think within the next few weeks, once Contrast Paint and Apocalypse has kind of been not the flavour of the month, I think we'll start to see it ramping up soon. But yeah, I was a bit surprised. I'm a bit surprised we haven't heard more, sorry, I should have said. Vijay says, doesn't surprise me Kings of War is popular here, especially if it's popular with salty ex-fantasy players. There's plenty around in every country, mate, not just in Australia. Skullman said, any videos, but more specifically the Call to Arms one. The Call to Arms one, we're still pinning down the date with Paul Preston and myself, so we need to still sort that out, and that's probably my fault. I haven't got back to him recently. But we should see some videos. You should definitely see one video this week about Call to Arms. I also was at Battle Systems on Friday as well, and I was filming some stuff with Colin, who owns Battle Systems, so I'd need to get that edited. I've not had a chance to do any editing of that footage yet, so you might, if I can work it around home life and work and all that kind of stuff this week, which is a bit nuts because I've got conferences with work and my wife's away and my little one's not very well and all them kind of stuff. If I can work around that, you might get 2 videos this week. If not, you'll definitely get one. Andy Smith says, night kids, hope everyone has a good week. You too, mate, and happy birthday to your little girl too. Harjinder Singh is in. Good evening, Harjinder. Hope you're very well. He says, GW have gone from not releasing much in the past 3 years to smashing it. Maybe a bit too much. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree, buddy. We did a live stream a few weeks ago now, and I was saying that exact same thing. Really, like, is it as a kind of reach saturation point? Is it at a point now where we physically, do they almost alienate their player base because they can't keep up anymore? I mean, I saw some of the release schedules for all of the new Apocalypse stuff that's coming out and things, and they really are basically forcing other companies almost out of stores now. There's only so much shelf space in shops to be able to display stuff and sell stuff. And if Games Workshop release 25 new boxes this week, they need to find space for them 25 boxes. And if that means they're getting rid of the stuff that's not really selling very well, the stuff that's been on the shelf for months and months and doesn't really move, you know, it might be some old War Machine stuff, or it might be some Malifaux stuff from 2nd edition that nobody's buying anymore now because 3rd edition's coming. Very soon, all these games kind of get wiped off the shelves and GW take their place. It's a marketing ploy that works very well in all industries where you're selling stuff on a shelf. I know it from the business that I'm in, that competing to get things on supermarket shelves, you have to take out competitor stuff to get your stuff on the shelves. It's a marketing that works really well, and GW have the means and the output to absolutely force people off the shelves. It's good to see Mantic almost kind of, you know, starting to up their output now, making sure that there's plenty of new stuff coming through the stores. There's something new for all of their games, and that's why I think Mantic are starting to smash it now. I really think they're on to a winner now. Claudio saying, unfortunately got to go, dead tired. Thanks, Andy. Thanks all. Take care. Thank you, buddy. And I hope your first tournament there on Saturday goes really well. So let me know however it goes, mate. Richard says, talk about Mantic for an evening is absolutely fine with me. Yeah, it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? We talk about all sorts of stuff. Where we at? Skullman says, oh yeah, Battle Systems. Honest opinion about the Kickstarter. How do you feel about the value of the sets? Honest opinion, mate. The quality, once I actually got my hands on it and kind of had a bit of a play around with it and saw the different options, way better than I thought it would be. The core space stuff really showed me for the first time what the quality of the stuff is like. And it was, I think it's almost doing it a disservice to call it plastic to call it cardboard terrain. I did get as well, if I can, it's slightly out of reach now. I did get some Walking Dead stuff, so some urban terrain. So I brought some back with me that I can use for my Call to Arms videos. I think if you're somebody that just likes to get something on the table quite quickly, you're not really into building from scratch, you're not into painting stuff, but you want your boards to look attractive and to look aesthetically pleasing, I honestly don't think there's anything better on the market. I think it really, really is good quality, and you'll be more than happy with the amount you get. So I think it's £75 for one of their sets. It will absolutely really densely fill a 3x3 board, or if you're doing something like Kings of War and you want to spread it out and you need a lot more room to maneuver, it will more than do a 6x4 board. For 75 quid, I honestly don't think there's anything that's as good value as that. You can buy MDF terrain, but you have to build it and you have to paint it, and it tends to look like MDF terrain. You can buy the foreground stuff, which really is beautiful, but it's a lot more expensive. You can buy resin stuff, you can buy the GW stuff, all of that kind of things, but they're much more expensive and they take a lot more time to prep, and they're a lot more hassle to store because once they're built, they're quite big chunky things. The Battle Systems one for me, I feel that it fits a really, really nice piece of the market that I think people like me really appreciate. So if I want to do a Vanguard battle report, perfect for me to put some of that down on the table and use that, because it looks great on camera, and I haven't had to spend weeks on end on kind of building it and painting it and stuff. So yeah, that honestly is my honest opinion. I went and I'll be honest, I drove all the way down to south of Birmingham. It was like a 4-hour drive. I would not have gone down there to spend the day doing some filming if I didn't think the stuff was good quality. There's no point me taking 8 hours out of my day to travel down to put on a brave face and say nice things. It really is good stuff, mate. Andy and Sarah said, "Tar, no worries, mate." Andy Smith said, "Hang on, conference about bog roll. You'd be surprised, mate, how much we have to talk about this kind of stuff." Michael saying, "Then again, I get a free battle mat and full terrain board." Yeah, but Battle Systems do a good retailer deal where basically if you order sort of a certain amount, they'll send you a free set to basically set up in the store and to kind of show it off. Because it's one of them things where if you go, "Do you want some card terrain?" You go, "Nah, I don't really want card terrain." It kind of reminds me of like the old World Works game stuff that you used to print off yourself. That if you took your time, and printed it on good quality paper with, nice inks and all that kind of stuff, it did look pretty good, but it took you a long time to get it up and running. And actually, by the time you put in the time and effort and the price for inks and all that kind of stuff, it wasn't really that much cheaper than normal terrain. The Battle System stuff, especially at the Kickstarter prices, is just a fantastic deal. I really was happy with it. Let's have a look. Bit of chat going on there as well. 12 Neefers in. Good evening, buddy. Just saw your name there. Kieran says it's a good point. Warcry's been a bit quiet of late. Half expected to be out already. Yeah, I think the contrast paint stuff has kind of swallowed a big chunk, and then the Apocalypse stuff now. I think what we'll probably see is maybe back. It's July now, isn't it? I can imagine. I think it's coming out to be playable at the open day at Warhammer World. Is that like 20th of July or something like that? So it wouldn't surprise me if that's pre-order weekend and it's out for sale the weekend after. Bit of chat going on there as well. Skullmuncher saying to Christian, "I'm impressed. Also, all the free stretch goals really add to the value." Yeah, it looks good, mate. Like I say, I've got a video coming this week. I put a few pictures on the Facebook group. If you head across to the Battle Systems Facebook group as well, I put a few more pictures on there of the stuff I'd seen. It looks nice stuff, mate, yeah. VJ says, "Speaking of lots of minis, Skull Tales full sale delivered while I was overseas. Holy heck, 100 resin minis." But that was nice and heavy for you, mate. Paul there saying, "I absolutely love Battle Systems. I've backed every Kickstarter so far, except the post-apocalypse one. I regret not backing it and getting the Shantytown." Yeah, the Shantytown one, I don't really have a lot of use for it, really. But yeah, I've got a couple of boxes of the of the urban one there that I've got some of it on my desk over there. I've started putting it together, and the boxes are down here beside me. So you'll see that in the All Out War video, the Call to Arms videos, sorry. Skullmun said, south of Birmingham, you could have popped in for a cuppa. I probably wasn't far away, mate, if I'm honest. I was up at the crack of dawn, and then I got back sort of late at night. I must have got back about 7 o'clock, something like 7:30 at night. So it was quite a full day, but most of that day was travelling, sadly. I had to take a day off work and do that. So yeah, I'm running out of holidays now for all this filming stuff. Steve says, we were using the D&D battle system stuff last night at the club. It's really cool. Flymower says, cardboard or printable terrain is more earth friendly. It is from a sort of like from a plastics point of view. It's also, the other side of it is as well, is it's modular, so you can take it apart and change it around. I was quite impressed with how modular the fantasy stuff was, and Colin from Battle Systems said actually this is their least modular system and that everything else is way more modular. But what I would say is that whilst this might be less modular than other systems, it allows you to have some much more interesting shapes and maybe a little bit less square than some of the other Battle Systems stuff. The kind of the arch, the curved roofs to it and stuff, the tavern that Christian was raving about, it looks fantastic in the flesh, it really does. Flying Mouse says, wasn't convinced by it, but more I see, more it looks great. I think it all depends upon what the alternative is, really. I mean, there are some fantastic terrain out there. There's some really nice, like, sort of scratch build stuff. There's some lovely resin buildings. But for me, the expense of buying it, for how often it would see the table and the time it would take me to paint it, just maybe to put it on camera for a video or something, the battle system stuff for me just really speeds all that stuff up and still looks good on camera. So, where are we at? One thing as well is there's a little bit of a watch out for the battle systems video, because Colin kind of lets something sneak out that I don't think's been made public, so it's worth watching out for that one as well. Michael says, really off topic but want to share anyways. Okay, he says he's finished Doom 2016 the other day and never felt so badass in the last 5 minutes after the game ended. Yes, mate, well done, buddy. And Christian is saying the Battle Systems Urban Apocalypse set is my top terrain buy list after the Fantasy Kickstarter. Yeah, I'm quite impressed with it actually. It's I think the urban stuff is great. I think the core space stuff is like a step on from that as well, and then the fantasy stuff's another step on again, really. Michael's given a big thumbs up there as well. So we're coming up to time now, really. That's been it's been quite a busy chat tonight, hasn't it? We've had a good number of people in tonight. I think it got up to about 50 or something at one point. VJ saying, speaking of 3D printing, did anyone else see the article on Spiky Bits about 3D printed army on cardboard basis winning a 40k Tony? Oh, that feels like a normal Spiky Bits clickbait type stuff, but I didn't see it, mate. I did see that on Spiky Bits had announced that GW have got a 15% price increase coming. Don't know how true that is. I didn't want to click on it because I didn't want to be bombarded by adverts from them, but who knows. And VJ said, I know I wouldn't be happy about it if I was a Tony player. It does get to a point, doesn't it, where actually if you're just in this to win, are we just getting to a point where what's the point in having miniatures? We might as well just have plastic tokens with the unit number written on it, like sort of, this is a Space Marine. You're almost getting to the point is what's the point in playing at that point, isn't it? So we got Flying Mammal there saying thanks for the natter hashtag top bands. Thank you very much. And Dark Anderson is in as well. Good evening, Harry. How you doing, mate? He says GW are coming down hard on Thingiverse and they are shutting down. Yeah, they did a big thing not so long ago, didn't they? Where people were doing 3D printed shoulder pads and emblems and stuff. They had a big clamp down on that not too long ago. Michael's saying to VJ to put that in the group. So thank you everybody for joining the chat tonight. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the comments of this video and I'll answer them when I can get round to them. Please do give the video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it tonight. It always helps to kind of make other people aware of the video. If it's had a few thumbs up, it tends to give it a hand when it goes kind of on the record and people can watch it back later on. Thank you to all of the donators tonight as well. Really is massively appreciated that. Matt's saying there, thanks for the stream. Nice to be on this end of the stream. I bet it is, buddy. Now you know what it's like, don't you, to do it, kind of push the buttons and move them cameras around. It's hard graft, mate. you've got my sympathy there. Yeah, chat's starting to come in now. People saying thank you, looking forward to Call to Arms videos, and Matt's in as well saying he enjoyed his first light stream. Yeah, I hope the twins are doing well, mate, and nice to have you back as well. Thank you very much. So then, folks, thanks very much for watching. I will see you in the next videos, and if anybody has any ideas of stuff they want to talk about for next week's live stream, again, put them down in the comments, and I'll, if there's some good ones in there, some meaty topics we can get chatting about, pop them in and we'll have a chat about it. So, thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you in the next video.